So recently I have been playing a lot of RPG-style Minecraft packs that try to overhaul the game to make it a nice, exciting RPG experience. And quite frankly, I've been pretty disappointed. Even the packs that I did find I liked, I just ended up being disappointed by them. For instance, I played Prominence 2, and I really enjoyed that pack, but I also found that the mage class just didn't seem to really have anything to do in the endgame. Like, you get to the end game and you can unlock these legendary mythic weapons that you can use to theoretically make your damage way better, and every single one of them was a downgrade to the staff that I made about halfway through the game. Anyway, since I was disappointed with the RPG mod packs that exist, I thought, well, hey, I'll make my own. So that's what this is, and I thought, hey, I'll document my process as I go through and slowly work on this, and then I can, at least while I'm doing that, elaborate on the things about other packs that I dislike and how I'm going to try and remedy in my own pack. So first things first, skill system. This is one of the things I really liked in Prominence, was they had a skill tree just like this, and I decided I want to do that. And they had 3 classes, I've decided I want to go for 4. So we've got a warrior path, a ranger path, a mage path, and a rogue path. More on that soon. For some reason, a lot of mod packs use Spell Engine for their magic, but I don't like Spell Engine. I find it's a little bit restrictive. So for my pack, Iron Spells and Spellbooks, baby. I have a mouse with extra buttons, and I have bound the buttons for the wheel to be one of the extra mouse buttons, and then for firing it to be another one. So using the magic feels really fluid and fun. And I'm sure I can set something up to be just as fluid and fun, even if you don't have extra mouse buttons like me. But I just think the diversity of the spells is way more interesting. Because even though I have this whole thing is set up with fire spells, I can run over here and I can just go to Iron Spells and Spellbooks, and I can grab, say, an ice spell like Cone of Cold, slap it into my spellbook, and now I can cast ice magic. I think that's way more interesting than being stuck with exactly one element like you are in Spell Engine. Also, if we're talking about attributes, there's just a lot more elements that you can tie into with Iron Spells than there is with regular Spell Engine Wizards mod, so I think it'll be more interesting. Also, it just looks cool. Look at the book on my waist. That's cool. Also, in the terms of magic, I have the Artifacts mod, as well as the Relics mod. So for instance, I can get in the Cloud in a Bottle, which lets me double jump. Just really fun. Look at that. That is so fun. And the Relic system has this whole, like, research system. I haven't looked into this too deep yet. I may not keep it because I don't really understand it, but it looks really cool, and if I can customize it to work well with the rest of the systems, then I will keep it, because it looks awesome. So one part of the skill tree is all based around that. Spell power, mana regen, max mana. This skill tree as a whole is still very work in progress and is just for testing right now, but even so, the path of the mage, I feel pretty confident that one's going to be pretty fun. And one of the things I really want to do with this pack, I have these 4 paths, and I want to balance them so that they're all roughly equivalent. That's going to be by far the most difficult task, but I have these dummies so that I can test the DPS values, and then, like, compare that to the way that you're fighting to get a grasp of how strong people can be. I'm sure I won't be able to do it perfectly, but I'm gonna do my best. Now, this is only one part of it. I really like magic stuff, but what really got me started on the idea of making my own RPG pack is Tyramity. Tyramity adds, among other things, guns. And I just think that these guns look and feel really cool. Die. This has resulted in my Terraria side rather taking over with the design of this pack, and I'm definitely thinking some very Terraria things as I develop it. Ores that only appear after certain progression stages, progression based around killing bosses, weapon types of every kind dropping from the boss, materials using it to craft special armors. I just think all of that sounds so cool, and I'm definitely going to be working towards that. But the Tramity guns do have some issues. Despite how cool they are, there's not that many of them, and if I want to make a big, long RPG pack, I don't think I'm going to be able to justifiably space out all of the guns in it. So, this is Scorched Guns. Scorched Guns adds even more guns, and they all look awesome. And in my opinion, they actually function even more smoothly than the guns from Tramity do. Combining the shotgun with some of the mods I have installed, like no damage immunity, which completely removes the immunity frames and allows you to deal damage multiple times in a second, makes the shotguns feel really impactful, and I love that. It's not just shotguns, we also have rifles, and we have guns with special properties, like this sculked-based gun, which, again, it just looks so cool. And this one, a minigun, the Earth's Corpse. Fire damage, and look at that fire rate! Obviously, this one would be a little bit later game. Also, it doesn't seem to actually clip into my face like the other Tramity gun did, so that's a perk as well. So that's just a few things you would be using on the Ranger path, because, yes, I'm going to have the Rangers use guns. Not just bows, guns as well, because I think they're both cool. Again, Terraria-inspired. But that's not the only feature I've put in. For instance, this here is a netherite knife. As you can see, it does 2.5 times unaware damage and 2 times distracted damage. What does that mean? You can see this little eye icon as I'm looking at this mob. This means it hasn't seen me. Basically, I've got a mod installed that allows you to get stealth strikes on mobs that haven't noticed you. And these attacks do, well, 2 times damage. So essentially, the rogue build would be about going behind enemies, landing crits on them without them even seeing you, and essentially one-shotting them, or just immediately retreating back into the shadows to hit them again. I'm not quite sure how good this build will be, and I may end up removing it if I have to, but I really like the idea of a build where you fight monsters by sneaking around and stabbing them in the back instead of fighting them head-on. So I'm going to try to make it work. I may not be able to. We'll see what happens. Now, obviously, Minecraft combat by itself is a little bit lacking, so you want to install some mods to spruce it up, which is why I've added better Nope! Oh, well then, you must have added Epic Fight. Nah-ah! I have added Project War Dance, a mod which allows you to effectively dual-wield. I've also added Combatify, which adds a bunch of stuff from the combat snapshot tests, and is probably my preferred combat overhaul. I haven't looked super deep into Project War Dance yet, it just looked interesting, and if I'm not happy with Project War Dance, then I'm just going to take it out and use Combatify by itself, because I actually hate Better Combat and Epic Fight mod. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I definitely don't want to use them. I'd much rather have combat like RL Craft than have combat like Prominence. I understand why people aren't super fond of the vanilla combat style, but the fact of the matter is, every mod that you use is going to be built around vanilla combat. So if we change it too fundamentally, the pack is just going to feel wrong. You're supposed to be able to hit entities at the edge of your reach, and you've got to deal with it. But on top of that, there is something I wanted to avoid. Because in all of these packs, I noticed something. You could use the Frost Sword, or you could use the Fire Sword, but effectively they're just the same thing. There is no tangible difference between using the Frost Sword and the Fire Sword. They both just deal damage. And with the exception of a very small number of mobs, it does not matter what kind of damage you deal. That's why I have Elemental Combat. As you can see when I look at this Creeper, it has plus defense against electric damage. So, one of these swords has been converted to electric damage, and the other has been converted to water damage. Electric damage, as you can see, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8. If I drew the water one instead, 6.8, 7, 6. The water sword did more damage because it had plus 12% defense against electric damage. That means that although you can use any weapon for any mob, certain weapons are going to do more damage against certain mobs. And I want to make that very clear. I would like to have multiple boss progression paths where different elements reign as king. I think that would be a lot more interesting. I never want to completely invalidate playing as your favorite element, but I would like it to feel like elements matter, and maybe even you would choose to use a worse weapon because it has the elemental effect that you need. anything to make the combat a little more complicated and interesting. I'm still very early in development for this pack, but these are the philosophies that I'm running by. And I just thought you might find it interesting. There's other things I've got here as well, like I can reforge weapons to give them different attributes. Like look, this one's got decreased attack speed and attack damage, but I can re-roll it. Now it has increased damage. I'm going to have to do a lot of configuration to make everything work, and I've already come across a few big issues that I'm going to have to find my way around. I know I'm going to make a video on at least one of those because I've already run into it and had to solve it. There's other things I'm toying with, like for instance I've got the parkour mod in right now, which allows you to do some really cool parkour. But I'm not completely sold as to whether I'm keeping this or not, particularly because Project War Dance has its own dodging mechanic that I quite like. But yeah, this is the basic idea. If you enjoyed listening to me ramble, then stick around, because I'm going to do more rambling. It's what I do. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you when I see you!